Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're at BGT, Breakthrough Golf Technology, the makers of the stability putter shaft. We're going to do a tour of the facility, and then we're going to go over an interview. We're going to talk about some of the technology in the shaft, kind of some of the thoughts behind it when they were designing it and what it's made to do. We're going to get some Quintec data, and we have the Capto with us also. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel if you like the content that we're bringing you. And if you want to purchase a stability shaft, visit our website or call and email us, and we'll make sure we can get you squared away.
So I'm Scott with Tour Quality Golf with Blair with Breakthrough Golf Technology.
Scott?
Where did the inspiration for the stability shaft come from?
It bubbled up from a necessity that identified itself on the Champions Tour. So a lot of the players were using heavier heads. Guys like Kenny Perry, Steve Lowry, Dana Quigley, they were saying, do you have anything stiffer? Because I'm using this 400 gram head or 380 gram head. And all we had at the time was a stiffer steel shaft, which is very heavy. So the complaint was the overall weight was going up too high. So it came from the tour, like a lot of ideas have.
About how many iterations do you guys go through when you're developing the stability shaft?
Quite a few. In terms of research, we used a robot to identify what was already out there. So steel shafts, we bought all the different types of steel putter shafts that there were, double bends, straight shafts, and then I started applying carbon fiber sheets to the outside of existing steel, trying to identify the flex points of the different steel, measuring all the different steel shafts. So there were some really crude iterations. Including those, it would have been probably 12 iterations.
So what makes what you guys do better than, say, like a Stroke Lab or some of the other composite putter shafts out there?
In terms of a Stroke Lab, the Stroke Lab shaft has a different design intent. They took basically they took a shaft and they added graphite components to it to free up discretionary mass, or to give them a choice to put more head weight in the head and a counterbalance in the butt end. And their claim is that it improves tempo. I haven't seen any data to that effect, but they claim that the entire putter system has a higher moment of inertia, which helps you with delivering the face or at the right time, or tempo related claim. We're going to be doing some research on it, but our design intent is to reduce oscillation, flex, and torsion to deliver the face more consistently at impact. Really, that was the number one design intent, was to stabilize the putter face at impact and allow the player to return it, no matter what their tempo, to square. So,
and return it more consistently.
More consistent face angle at impact was the goal, and we did achieve that. Just it's a small difference, but it's significant in terms of performance. And the further away you get from the hole, actually, the more difference, or the larger the swing, the more difference it actually can make.
Right. So, I mean, there's a percentage that, you guys improve usually, or what's the standard percentage that you guys improve somebody's putting by based on all those parameters? Is it, 30% or 50%?
Yeah, it's closer to 12 to 16 in terms of overall performance, and that's in terms of where your ball finishes, where the line that it starts on relative to where the club face is aiming. And so it also improves the player's ability. We've done a lot of player testing, and in each one of the player testing scenarios, the player's been able to control their distance control better. In other words, their range in terms of short and long has improved. In that case, some of our testing was remarkable. It was 10% better control in terms of in terms of average and standard deviations from the hole by distance. So it was actually quite significant.
So you see a lot of people being inside of that 3-foot circle versus maybe they would have been outside of that 3-foot circle, in 3-putt range.
Correct.
And then moving into 2-putt range on that second putt, one versus the other.
A lot more tap-ins after the first putt, and that's consistent. That seems to be very, very common. Anecdotally, we get a lot of feedback from people that have bought the shaft and are very satisfied with their distance control after they start putting it in play.
That's great. Is there a specific type of putter that helps more? I mean, we obviously talked about the heavier mallets, but does it help the heavier mallet more than maybe a lighter blade, or is it?
Well, it is a lot stiffer, and so in terms of the heavier the head, the more stability you need in the shaft to control it. What you will notice is if you do counterbalancing in your putter and you put a node of mass at the end of the putter and you use a heavy head, there's no wave through the shaft or wobble, or I call it a wow after impact, where the shaft is actually, you can palpably feel it wobbling. But in terms of putter design, in our robot testing, the club face returns to square more often, no matter if it's a mallet or a blade style putter. Marginally, I would say the biggest difference is that with a blade style putter, the face on an arcing stroke, or a slightly inclined plane where the club face is releasing, the steel shaft and the stability shaft both kind of average, squaring up, but the range is tighter with ours. With a mallet style double bend shaft, our shaft actually averages square, and the range is also tighter. So it does perform slightly better on the double bend, larger profile mallet heads, so say something like a number 7 Odyssey or a 2-ball, or maybe a Spider Tour, or Spider X.
Is there a specific stroke type that this helps more than others? Does it help straighten people's stroke out due to the stiffness?
In terms of performance, it should help everybody in theory, but we have with the robot, we've measured both straight back, straight through, and then arcing style strokes, and on average, our shaft helps in both scenarios. So I think, I mean, it's fair to say in robot testing, it helps all stroke shapes. In terms of player testing, it's a lot more difficult to nail down the variables, you know, and chase people around the putting green to try to identify that. But in a robot testing, yes, definitely, both arcing strokes and straighter back, straighter through strokes. Nobody actually makes the putter move perfectly straight.
So we've had some questions about the star-shaped piece, the aluminum insert that goes down the shaft. So what is it? What does it do? And I assume it's in all of them too, right?
It is. It's located, basically what we did, because the shaft is so stiff, conventional deflection machines don't actually do a very good job of measuring the stiffness, because the machines aren't set up to measure something this stiff. So what we did is we did a 3D sort of cyber analysis, applying a force to both ends and finding out where the weak spot was in our shaft, and we straddled that weak point, the weakest point in the system. It's not weak by any means before the insert goes in, but when you put the insert, it straddles that and further stiffens an already stiff shaft. In addition, it raises the overall weight to get in more in line with what people are used to. The balance point is slightly towards the tip end, so you'll see a slight increase in swing weight, but most people enjoy that. And if they don't enjoy it, you always have the option to counterbalance in the butt end, put a heavier grip on it. So that's why we came to put it there. The design of the thing is simple. It's a lightweight, flex-resistant design. So it's kind of built like an extruded orange or grapefruit, you know. So it's resistant to compression or flexion, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's made of aluminum. It also marginally reduces the vibration because we use a very, very low torque weave on the or the wrap of the graphite. It can feel a little boardy. So that insert also takes a little bit of that boardiness or
that kind of harsh
feeling out of the hit.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit about it being in different locations in different shafts? Because I've had certain customers who've purchased them secondhand, and the little star-shaped thing is at the butt. Some of them are down towards the tip. They're not always consistent in the same spot.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about why that is?
Well, a lot of people, with the advent of the forearm or arm lock style putters, a lot of people had called us and said, hey, can you make us an arm lock putter? And for several people, I would say it's closer to 6 to 8 people, we've built. We basically loaded the entire shaft to get the overall weight way up. We loaded the entire shaft with those inserts, thereby really increasing the stiffness so that the extra length and the extra head mass wouldn't overload the shaft. So some of them were made with an extrusion all the way through them. For the customer that might have noticed that in your case, that's probably what he got. So when if they cut it down from that point, they would have seen wherever they cut it through the shaft, they would have seen the insert.
Do you guys also, so like if you were to make your own belly shaft or your own arm lock shaft, would you use that insert to join two shafts together also, or do you join them a different way?
Not anymore. We have another option. We have actually slightly thicker walled graphite with a steel core that goes into. So those are coming. They'll be here beginning of October. You can order arm lock versions of the stability shaft. Still the same reduction at 46.5 inches. You've only got 1 degree of torque, which is pretty low torque for something that long.
46 inches, yeah.
And less flex. And steel's a great material, even though we don't use it much in our regular shaft design.
It has its place.
It has its place. It's we're just trying to use the best materials to control the forces involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of regular shaft design, that extension is a certain length. How did you guys kind of arrive at that length?
The extension?
Yes.
Well, we came with the straight shafts. Most of the straight shafts go into a plumber's neck connection. So we measured the average flex point. We wanted to stabilize this flex point of an average shaft, and so we also wanted to make it commercially viable. So we started the insertion of the shaft. This actually goes in here 2.6 inches. It's very stable in this region, stiffens this a lot, and then the insert further stiffens. So this whole region is where a typical shaft flexes, especially on longer putts. People don't think their putter shaft flexes much, but it actually does and can flex a lot, which can change your launch angle, and it can change your performance, your ball roll. So we basically wanted to isolate or stabilize the typical flex region in the shaft. In addition, we wanted to make it high enough above the club head to where we could attach our shaft onto existing double bend shafts and or straight shafts if people wanted to retrofit their existing putter. So,
Okay.
And so that's the reason this portion is actually where the technology lies, and it can be adhered to your existing double bend shaft. That way we don't have to make a double bend profile for every putter out there, and people can benefit from the technology. Hope that answers.
That was definitely.
All right, well, that's it for part one. I'm going to go ahead and break it up into two parts. Otherwise, it'll be almost a 35-minute long video. I know personally I don't like watching videos any longer than about 15 minutes. So part two, we'll go over. They had a gentleman in there. He just qualified for the U.S. Mid-Am, and he was doing a putter fitting. We'll go over some footage of his putter fitting, go over part two of the interview, and we'll answer any questions from part one and part two. So make sure you like and subscribe, and thanks for tuning in.